Welcome to Warblog. It's another quiet night, so to speak. Not in Addis Ababa, isn't it? The 2020 riots. It's interesting. It's interesting how this game sort of caters for riots and the genesis of civil war and things of that nature. But this is interesting because essentially what happened was Haacaaluu Hundeessaa was shot. Now, he was a protest singer. And people were quite upset and they started rioting, and over 190 people have died. And the internet was shut down during the riots. They pulled down the statue of Ras Mekonnen and set it on fire, which is quite a feat considering it's made of stone or steel. And they pulled it down and they did damage to Bole Airport. And these are just a couple of things I picked up from Twitter. I haven't really done a lot of research. I'm sure a lot of other things were done. And there were lots of buildings set on fire. And it was also reported that militants were massing outside the city. I haven't really got much further than that, and it made me think about a lot of things really, including my site. And one thing that has been, so there he is, Haacaaluu Hundeessaa, an ethnic Oromo musician known for his protest songs, heavily armed with a buckler and spear. I quite often see these sorts of spears advertised on the internet, actually. The particular militaria site that I sometimes look at, I would say patronise, but I don't, because I don't have any money. But anyway, so he was killed, and there were riots. So there we got the statue, we got the airport down there, and they just put a bunch of shops in there, and it's pretty standard, riot thing. We'll play it in a bit, but let me just go jumping straight into play mode, because I'm just going to talk generally now. A few things. So here we have the riots. So let's do the riots. Well, let's see if we can get to the statue first, because it's obviously the most important thing. Well, the police aren't going to have any of that. Let's see if the rioters can hold their ground. Oh, look at that, they did as well. The police had to retreat. Look at that. Sometimes I think that this is more than a simulation. But the point is that I enjoy this site. I enjoy Warblog, and there's a few points that I'm going to sort of just talk about here, really. And the first is, this is a simple point, you get it over and done with. So look, we've got lots more rioters appearing now. But I'll pause on the game just to sort of reiterate the first point. The first point is sort of, you've got to sort of think, well, am I sort of a ghoul preying on the pain and hardship of people in mostly Africa and Middle Eastern lands as they burn in hell, so to speak? And I don't think so. I realise it's difficult, and this game, this scenario, brought that to life really, because I was sort of thinking, well, the first of the reports were 50 people killed, and then it was 80, and then it was like 150, and I looked at the recent one, it said 190 people killed, and I thought, wow, it seems that one of the things that I do to justify putting a game in is the number of people killed. If more than 20 people are killed, like in a Boko Haram assault on a village or something, there's limits on that. But I'll tend to put it in. There has to be a sort of a death rate. There's been, over, I think 10,000, 1,000 people or something like that killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the last year. And you sort of count that, and and I think that you have to be sort of sensible about these sorts of things. And I'm just sort of thinking, well, we're just sort of like scanning the news headlines for news of people dying, and I think it's a justifiable charge against me, but I refute it, and I don't care. I'll say it quite like that, not because I'm insensitive, but I think there's more to it, and to just sort of like understand. And now the thing is, all this connects in with other stuff that I've been thinking about, and it doesn't all span down to how great I am. Obviously, it might sound a bit narcissistic, but essentially, I'm quite interested in war, and I sort of stumbled on this format, to be quite honest, quite accidentally, and I think it works, and so I'm running with it, and I think it's a good site, and it has a lot of value, in a lot of ways, and so I'm just running with it. I think it's good. I wouldn't be flogging a dead horse if I didn't think this was good. But the thing is, this is what interests me. And I look across the internet and everyone is talking about Donald Trump, Black Lives Matter, the elections, and I seem to be the only person talking about global conflicts. And it just strikes me that, I don't know, it just strikes me as being something that I find difficult to comprehend without wanting to get too deeply in that. It seems that, are these people actually interested in the things that they're going ape crap about on the social media and censorship and all of this, or are they just sort of following the herd and picking a side to fight an argument with? I mean, surely if you want to fight rights and wrongs, we have all the rights and wrongs in this scenario right here in front of us for us to discuss, to get heated about, and to feel compelled to action, and that's the thing. So obviously, what else does this all sort of come into play with? Now, it's about sort of what people are saying. Oh, speak your mind. So when I go to some of these sites down here, Gab, speak your mind. I went to Brighteon today, and he's all about wanting to be the go-to video place for people that want to speak their mind. Now, I speak my mind on Gab. I speak my mind. It says, what's on your mind? Well, what's on my mind is this, the Addis Ababa Riots, Ethiopia 2020. Obviously, the blurb and, all this stuff, the link to the site and some keywords, comments, nothing. I've done this one. So I'm talking about what's on my mind, what's interesting me. Fantastic, interesting images, obviously not for everyone. Nothing, no comments. Here you go, here's the Guam Air Base Emergency Deployment Readiness Exercise, an American interest thing. Nothing. They just want to talk about, all this politics stuff, and I'm not going to criticise that at all, but it just seems that whenever people ask what's speaking on their mind, it seems that it's a conditional upon it being politics and all the current events that are going on in America. So going back to the game, I'm sort of thinking, well, I do civil war. I did the Iranian uprising. I did the Delhi massacre, or whatever it is. I did the French riots. I did some Iraqi riots. I've done a lot of riots, but I didn't do the American riots. Why? Because there weren't enough people dying. And as far as I'm concerned, and I don't want to get too political about this because everyone's talking about politics, and I've been doing what I want to do, and I'm talking about war, and I've gone away with it in the sense that there's nothing about politics on the site. It's just completely focusing on what I'm interested in. I'm doing what I'm interested in. I'm speaking my mind. I'm expressing myself freely. I've had a video removed by YouTube, but I mean, I can live with that. I've had a hell of a lot of trouble in other quarters, particularly with Amazon, and it is scary. But the thing is, I don't. It seems to me that when you look at this, when you look at what's happening, a real riot, a real black person. I don't want to get too political about this, but a real man being unjustly shot, presumably. I don't think he was accidentally shot. And real businesses ablaze. That might be a good one. I don't want to start surfing the internet to try and find images, etc. But when you sort of find a real one, no one wants to talk about it. No one's sort of up in arms about his death or the deaths of 190 other people, if they are indeed dead. Sometimes I wonder whether or not they're just sort of like making these numbers up, because I don't see any pictures of corpses in any of the pictures, in any of the news reports. But they have reportedly shut the internet down. But there are things getting out onto Twitter. And it just strikes me that this, because of what I do and my sort of familiarity with conflict, it's so apparent that what's happening in America is just totally bogus. And I was reading something today about someone's perceptions of what was happening, and they were sort of saying, well, they were talking about how, I don't even know what the terms are, I'm not going to start using the terms, but they had this sort of autonomous zone in Seattle, I think, and one thing led to another, and they were removed, and they had 60 armed policemen, heavily armed, that went in there at 3 o'clock in the morning and removed them, and they all ran away without putting up much resistance. That's because they were not rioters, they were not revolutionaries, they were not people like this that were protesting in anger. They were protesting because they were allowed to protest. It was promoted, and it was so artificial in my mind's eye. There was just nothing to believe that it was anything real, and so I didn't do a game on it. I mean, I was thinking, it made me think, well, how serious were the Iranian ones? How serious were those French riots? I got the feeling that those French riots were in earnest. They were seriously angry. They weren't doing it because they felt it was fashionable. And it was real, and I think it justified a scenario. And it was one of the first ones that made me sort of wonder, how precarious law and order is in regards to the sort of tipping stone of civil war. Because this could be a tipping stone for Ethiopia. I mean, Ethiopia is struggling in so many ways, and it's a serious matter. And to see, the American soap opera of civil war being portrayed, it just strikes me as being, hardly worth noticing, really, hardly worth acknowledging, So I don't want to get too far bogged down in that. It's just it struck me this was a good contrast to, one man is quite clearly accidentally killed by a policeman kneeling on his neck. I mean, can I say that without being arrested and thrown off by the Thought Police on YouTube? Can I even say that on a video that will probably go onto YouTube? In comparison to this, where the man was shot dead and 190 people have been killed so far. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? So anyway, I'm just going to get on to playing it, because I don't want to start going too much into all that like some sort of political diva. But I think you've got to bear in mind perspective, and well, let's go and loot some shops. One thing I haven't done, and I think it's something I sort of refrain from. But I haven't done any of the London riots, and there's nothing to stop me going back and doing some of the ones that I did. But I tend to only do. I think that they only really should be included if there is some serious momentum behind them as events that could qualify as precursors to war. Because this is about war blog. It's not an angry blog, you know. And the riots in London, they're very different to the riots in America, in the sense that there was no sort of ideological focus on pulling statues down or anything like that. I mean, all they did was loot shops, and that was pretty much it. But you know, I mean, it's similar in the sense that would I cover them? Am I partisan? Well, I'm certainly in no way partisan whatsoever. I did the Venezuelan riots as well. You know, I'm not just doing the ones that affect other people. I would do the American ones if I felt that there was any sort of like sensibility behind them that was worthy of it being done. I don't think there is at all. And would I do the London ones? Well, to some extent there was a lot of anger and a lot of lawlessness, but there's still just no you know, I mean, the whole idea that there would ever be anything that threatened the government was a joke. I mean, I sort of thought to myself when they were happening about 10 years ago, the ones I'm thinking about, you know, the police could just sort of leave them, and you know, in 3 days' time they'd all get tired and go home and go have a nap. You know, they would blow themselves out. There was no, you know, they would. Once they've got all the training shoes that they wanted, there wouldn't be much more that they needed. So anyway, let's see what happens now. We still haven't got the statue. But the police, what are they going to do? Are they going to protect the shops? Or are they going to protect the statue? This is a dilemma for me, because obviously I know that the statue is more important. But we're near the shops here, and it's as quick to get to these rioters as it is here. So where are they going to go? Now, obviously, I'm biased. That's the problem I'm having here. So in theory, I should think of a way of randomly determining where these police go. What would they do? How can I do that without having my positive or negative bias in place? If I go down here, it's like I'm allowing the statue to be taken down. If I move up there, it's like I definitely want to make sure that statue is protected. So let's protect the statue. Just on a whim. Statues are important. Or are they? I don't know. We push the rioters out, away from the statue. Right. Oh, look at that. The rioters didn't like that at all. Look at them all piling in. Right, let's see if we can take this statue down. Push the police back. Oh, we've got the statue. We can't get any further. Nor can he. So fighting for that statue. Well, the shops have been looted, look. Nearly. We might have to protect these shops. They look like they're in more trouble than the statue. Let's protect the shops. We protected the statue last time. An exchange, 3-1, an exchange. How embarrassing for the police. I'm not laughing. It's not a laughing matter. And nor am I grinning inanely. I think that's the problem, you see. The concept of game and 190 people dying like yesterday doesn't settle well with the powers that be. Okay. See, I'm not focusing or concentrating enough, really, but I am. Now, we'll want to get that statue, but we also want to make sure that these police units don't drive through there. They're on 3 depressions, look. What can we do? Well, let's see how far we can get these protesters. One thing to say, the reason we got all this stuff over here and Addis Ababa is focused over here is because this is Oromia, where they all come from. This is like their heartland, or I think it is anyway, I might be wrong. So this is sort of where they're all sourced from mainly, but when I sort of put it together, I don't think there's really much of it's less significant. I could have put this more central, but you know, I think it still works. I think you get a nice sense for the shape and the geographic orientation of Addis Ababa, or whatever it's called. Well, let's just make it really hard for them to get to that statue. How many movement points have we got? 1. Well, let's take these shops here out. Oh, well. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Right, so everyone is piling into these statues. And they really want this statue gone. He's going to try and take that. Oh, there's some Ethiopian infantry. I didn't think they came on till a lot later. This is where the people start to get killed, I guess. Okay, so the police. Right, well, they're going to have a difficult time, aren't they? But we've got the army now. But they're going a bit slow. What do we do? Well, these shops look vulnerable. Let's protect those. The statue is just a DR. We won on that one. Let's see if we can do this. Oh, an exchange. I was going to move them in there and do everything onto that. Okay, the statue has got to come down now, hasn't it? No, they've still not done it. I think they have to be full. I think that's what's happening there. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know what's happening. Well, if we do that, we can protect. So that there's more of them. Right. 7-1 DE. They just fired their guns across the river and the protesters ran away. Well, we've protected the shops, but we really want to start maybe getting towards this statue. An exchange. They're just not doing very well. The riots are just really sort of. And here, what do we want to do? Do we want to leave these all stacked up in one hit? Or do we want to try and protect these shops? Oh, we got them. We protected the shops. Can we move in there? No, but we can do a big assault here, look. What's wrong with that? That's interesting. What's that? A DR. Oh, look at that. We can. Those shops are now on fire and burnt out. But we've still got a bit of movement. Can we protect the statue? An exchange. What's that? The statue is still there. Well, we destroyed those shops now, so we can go to Arada. It's not doing anything against that statue. Don't understand it. See, the army's coming in now. We managed to get across the bridge, but look, the shops are on fire. Actually, I think I've sussed it out. Have you figured it out? Have you figured it out? I'm talking to myself, really, but because the statue's not in there, is it? It's in there. It's there. They're all looking for the statue. They're so stupid. They're probably pulling down something else. It's not the statue at all. Right, well, Ethiopia is now about to start damaging. Oh, look at that. That's a bunch of protesters dead. Yeah, really starting to push. The irony is that we don't really need to be going for there because there's no statue to protect and exchange. Oh god. And we can at least fight that. Okay. Can't really do much against the military. But I guess we can sort of try and target these police. This would be like Zulu Dawn. They killed the police. Wow. Block the police from getting over there. Look, we destroyed the statue at last. I told it where it was. I wonder what they actually spent a lot of time destroying. Probably a statue of a unicorn or something. But the Ethiopian army is now involved. They're angry. The police have been killed by protesters. There goes another bunch of protesters killed. Oh no, it's the Ethiopian turn, isn't it? Right, we've got a bunch more police, look. How do we want to do this? You shouldn't really do it like this because we can do this, can't we? Yep. Policeman's revenge. DE, yeah. We don't even need that. The army can take care of as many protesters as they want. The police need to come down here. Oh no. They've gone into a zone of control. Okay, so that's the situation. It's hard to actually see who's on whose side because they all just look the same, but oh look, regulars. And we don't know that they're there, but this is, if they do that, obviously, in the Oronodo heartland, it could change the situation as more and more protesters die. Well, we've destroyed the statue. I think word on the street is we need to go and do some damage at the airport. Not that I'm laughing at that, they went to the airport, and so we need to go to the airport as well. Ooh. There isn't much else to destroy really. It's these shops here. But what we can do is definitely get in the way. Okay. Well, they need to get to the airport. They can't. They've run out of movement. They can get there. Yes. And unless they do really badly, which I don't think they will. Ooh. 12. That was bad, but they can't move in there. It's a lot of troops to protect the airport. That's far across the river. DE, yeah. The rivers make it quite difficult. Killed some more protesters. Killed some more. Some police over the river. That's it. So we have actually managed to damage the airport, haven't we? So that's all historically sound and correct. Much of Addis Ababa is destroyed and under fire, just like it was historically. And the irregulars, the armed irregulars, are forming outside. There's nothing more to do apart from just to set fire to Bole Airport. I'm going to leave it at that. Let's see what happens when we do press this. Oh look, for some reason we seem to have restored the airport. Oh, I think I know what happened. I don't know what happened actually. That was crazy. I think it went the other way. I think it flip-flopped. Okay, but I'm going to leave it there. So what we've sort of got, I'd get the drawing tool out, but it's pointless really. We've got troops. We know that troops will basically destroy anything they touch, so the riots will now be quelled. It's just a matter of time, but much of Addis Ababa has been set fire to, statues have been pulled down, the airport has been attacked and then mysteriously repaired by rioters. And that's that. And so, yeah, again, these are real events. Something to follow, really. To sort of say, well, what's happening in Africa? Kenyans protest against police brutality. See, the thing is, when they protest against police brutality, there's a much greater chance that it will be shot. I think all this trending American stuff is dangerous. They're purging Cameroon of French colonial monuments. Well, how many Cameroonians are going to be shot because of that? It's a trend. There it is. Look, armed groups attacking DRC killed almost 800 in 18 months. Reopening in Kenya after month-long coronavirus lockdown. It's very sort of Western. Racists cannot silence us. In Ghana, it's like Al Jazeera has definitely got a lot of Western bias in its reporting. A towering musician and an Oromo icon. When Haacaaluu was assassinated by unidentified assailants on 29th in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia lost not just a strikingly talented musician, but also a political and cultural icon. His assassination sent shockwaves across the country, particularly in Oromia, which is the west, I think, of Addis Ababa, the Oromo majority region of Ethiopia, and triggered a major protest in Addis Ababa and elsewhere. At this stage, it's reported 160 people have been killed, more than 1,000 arrested. Born in 1986. That's quite interesting, really, because he's a lot younger than me, and he doesn't look very young. Well, maybe he doesn't look too old either, but. In 2003, at the age of 17, he was accused of supporting the Oromo Liberation Front, an Oromo nationalist organisation which was at the time banned. In 2009, Haacaaluu burst onto Ethiopia's music scene with his first album, Sanyi Muti Royalty. He wrote most of the lyrics in prison, and the record-breaking album propelled the 22-year-old to national stardom. I won't try and play it because I don't think my video will play much. But yeah, I mean, there you go. So if you're a follower of Warblog, you've now had a dose of the Addis Ababa Riots 2020. You can consider yourself edified in that matter, perplexed as to how they took the time to repair that. I'll look into it, but I don't know what happened. It might be that I have no idea. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.